Yes. Yes. Here we go. All right. Back here, we're recording. Let Rev Kwai in. Let's share it. Let's go find it. And I don't want to. What did I say? I said 2 Samuel, right? 2 Samuel chapter number 23 is the text that you and I would be looking at. Sorry for the delay on how long it's taken for me to get here, but got the computer going. CJB would be cool, all right? Peanut butter and jelly. 2 Samuel, where are you? Okay. 2 Samuel number 23. Okay, so this is at David's, this is right before his death. He tells us some things. This is when David said, here are David's last words. And this is to answer your question, who taught David? He says, this is the speech of David, the son of Yeshai, the speech of the man who has been raised up, the anointed by Elohim of Yaakov, the sweet singer of Yisrael. There's your answer. The spirit of Yahweh spoke through me. His word was on my tongue. The Elohim of Israel spoke. The rock of Israel said to me, a ruler over my people must be upright, ruling in the fear of Elohim. So that's who taught him.
Okay.
So when he says that you're greater than anybody ever. I mean, he had a father who taught him. He was he walked among Shemuel at one time, but we see that the ultimate teacher is the creator. And that's even the plans for the temple were not designed by Shlomo. They were written by King David, that he said that the spirit of Elohim gave him all the plans to the temple. He wrote all the plans out for the temple. So Shlomo didn't come up with the designs that King David did. And he said, Yahweh, but through his spirit, gave me all the knowledge. So we see that a lot of the words in which David is speaking, he's speaking from the spirit of Yahweh. And that's what makes him special, And what's refreshing about this is that you and I are literally going to be ones who are going to receive the spirit of Elohim as well. When we get back to the land, before we go into the land, he's going to cleanse us and he's going to give his spirit to us. And that's what we're going to live by. I was talking to my wife today, and, it's a very difficult time of mourning and grieving. And I said, once we get into the land, you and I won't be grieving over someone who dies, even though they're going to die, because we're going to fully understand what it means. Death is a cycle. It's a recurring cycle. In the Hebrew thought, death is not the end. Death is like not the end. It's like it's a time in which death is part of the cycle. So it's very cyclical. So they understand that there's a certain time you got to go. And then something else is going to come up behind it. And then they're going to go through their cycle, and then they're going to go. And then that's the repeat. And Yah gives us enough time to process the death and through mourning. Yes, Akoti, Cheryl.
Yeah, shalom.
Shalom.
Shalom. Do we not? Do we have to wait to get to the land to understand that about death? I understand that. I mean, the pain is there when your loved one passes, but I understand that we go back into the hands of the Most High. Mm-hmm. And so I still, it's not so much grief, let's put it that way. Mm-hmm. It's there because I'm going to miss, that person, but I find peace and knowing that Most High is in control of all of it.
Yes.
That's, so are we waiting to get back, to the land to understand that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because the Creator is the knowledge that you and I are going to receive is going to be greater, because we don't fully understand everything right now. Meaning, we have a glimpse of things. We don't even fully understand the Torah. We don't get. He didn't give it to us. He didn't download everything. He said, "I'm going to put this on your mind, where you will never have to be taught by anyone." All of our questions will be answered when we go back into that environment with the Creator of the universe.
Yes.
He's going to literally be living among us, and we're going to be living in his presence. So the knowledge and the wisdom and the understanding, everything is going to be given by the Spirit of the King of the universe to us. And then once we receive that, he said, nobody's going to teach you. Everyone's going to be taught by Elohim. So there's a higher level and a higher degree of wisdom, knowledge, and understanding that you and I will possess that no one else will possess.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and that's because we're his chosen people. So
Right.
yeah, right now we
Thank
might.
you.
Yes. So at this time we have we're looking through literally like a frosted glass. We can kind of see some things, but we really can't see it all. We don't know what it is. We don't even understand when he says, I'll bring you back, you're going to feel guilt about everything you've done. It's not going to be, well, I smoked cigarettes and I had some drinks and I did this or I stole it. It's not going to be that kind of guilt that causes a person to feel the grief and the pain. It's a revealing of oneself that you and I are going to be dealing with. See, in our Torah portion this week, it's about a man called Noah. And, he comes from a family that, often we think that there was one line and there was, one family that humanity was divided. Humanity was literally divided into two parts. And we really don't get taught this. So I want to share it with us. How many Enochs are what they call Enochs? How many Enochs do you think there are in the scriptures?
One.
Two.
There's two. How many? The father of you guys remember the name of the Noah's father? If you don't, that's okay. I just want us to start getting some ideas about.
Was it Lamech?
It is Lamech. How many Lamechs are they in the scriptures?
It's two, right?
There's two of them. Okay. So there's two lines. Okay. And the lines that you and I are coming from are not the line. There's a line of Cain or Qayin, in English, Cain. And then in the other line is called the line of Seth, which means appointed. Okay. So there's two family lines that they have Enoch or Enoch. Okay. Enoch, yeah, they call him Enoch, but his real name is Kanok. And then there's another Kanok over in Seth's line. So I want to show you what those two are and what the difference are, because when the Creator destroys the earth, he's getting rid of the whole entire line from Cain, except for the idea, and hear me, who did Noah's sons marry? They don't tell us who they married. They could have easily been from Cain's line, easily. Okay, there's a lot of similar names on both ends. But in chapter number 4, okay, it starts in verse number 16. It says, Cain left the presence of Yahweh and he lived in the land of Nod, meaning wandering east in Eden. I don't know if you guys know this before we travel a little further. Eden was not just a garden. Eden was a location. And there was a garden of Eden. See, so he left the presence of Yahweh and he lived in the land of Nod, east of Eden. Eden was the actual geographical area. And within Eden, there was the garden. See, so there was one land called Eden. And then, of course, there's the garden that was inside of the land, and that land is somewhere in the east. So Cain, he had sexual relations with his wife, and he conceived and gave birth to Canok, which they would call Enoch in English. And Cain built a city, and he named that city after his son Canok. Okay, and Canok was born Irad. Okay, and Irad fathered Yakuyael, and Yakuyael fathered Mathushael. Okay, who fathered Lamech. Okay, and the Lamech took to himself 2 wives. So this is a different line. Now, when I go over here to chapter number 5, okay, over here, it says that, let's start in verse number 14. In all, he talks about this Quanan, he lived 910 years and then he died. Then he had a son called Mahal Lael, okay? And Mahal Lael, he lived 65 years and he fathered Dr. Yared. he fathered Yared, okay? And Yared was born, and Mahalalel, he lived 830 years and he had sons and daughters. And then it says, in all, he lived 895 years and then he died. Verse number 18, Yared lived 162 years and then he fathered Canok, which is they have Enoch. So this is the second one. And after Canok was born, Yared lived 800 years and he had sons and daughters. And in all, Yared lived 962 years and then he died. Canok, which is Enoch in English, lived 65 years. Then he fathered Mathushalek. See, the other Canok, he fathered Mathushalal. Here's Mathushalek, which is completely different. And it says after Mathushalek was born, Canok walked with Elohim 300 years, and he had sons and daughters. Okay. And in all, Canok lived 365 years, and then Canok walked with Elohim, and then he wasn't there because Elohim took him. So Mathushalak, he lived 187 years, which is the father, the son of Canok, and then he fathered Lamech. Then Lamech was born, and then Mathushalak lived 782 years. He had sons and daughters. And in all, they tell us Mathushalak had lived 969 years, which is one of the men who lived the longest out of all the men on both sides. And then it says Lamech lived 182 years and he fathered a son. So we don't want to get confused on what son it was, right? The Lamech, there's one Lamech over in Cain's line, and there's another Melech or Lamech that's over in Seth's line, okay? And he said that his name, which means restful or mean to comfort, he said this one will comfort us in our labor and in the hard work we do with our hands. When it talked about that labor, it uses the same word in Hebrew called itzibon, meaning the pain that they were experiencing from working the field, because Yah had cursed the land and said that you're going to have pain trying to get this land to bring forth fruit unto you. So all these thousands of years, they weren't getting really anything out of the land. And so he says, when this one comes, he's going to comfort us in our labor. And that's kind of mysterious because he dies. And so when he says, comfort us in our labor, this is what Enoch, or excuse me, what Noach's name means, is to comfort us for all the hard work that we're doing, because they're not getting anything from the land, the Adamah which Yahweh cursed. And so after Noach was born, Lamech lived 595 years. He has sons and daughters. And in all, Lamech had lived 777 years, and then he died. And Noach was 500 years old, and he fathered Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Okay. One point that I do want to bring out right quick that I didn't bring out in our Torah portion last week, which is important for us to understand. There's a lot of controversy about what I'm about to read to you. Okay. Verse number 1 says that here is the genealogy of Adam. And on the day that Elohim created man, he made him in the likeness of Elohim, and he created him, okay, him meaning man, he created them, male and female, which we went over, and he blessed them and he called them, not her or not him, he called them Adam, mankind, and on the day that they were created. Now, after Adam had lived 130 years, he fathered a son like himself, and he named him Seth. Okay. In the Hebrew, it doesn't say that he fathered him. Okay. He said that he made and he created someone in his own likeness. Okay. So every human being that was born after Adam was born in the image, in the likeness of Adam. Okay. Now let me show it to you. Because this raises a question about whether or not it says that you and I were created in the image of Elohim. The text says something completely different. It says that, where is it at? Okay, here you go. Okay, here you go. Verse number 3, and Wahi Adam Sholashim, he was 130 years old, and he Yoled, he birthed forth in his own likeness, right here. Okay. So he birthed a son, or had a son born in his kid Mutho, in his likeness, according to and after his image. That little O on the end is dealing with the image of Adam. It's his image right here, his image, not the image of Elohim, and in his own likeness, according to what he looked like. So his son came down in his image and he came down in his likeness. And he called him, of course, Saith. That's what he called him, meaning that Yah has appointed. So there's a lot of controversy about what does this really mean? Does it mean that as a whole, all humanity now is not in the image of Elohim, but they're in the image of Adam, versus them being in the image of Elohim? When Elohim had made Adam, he made him according to his own likeness and in his image. But now we see that everything after that is in his own likeness and in his own image. That O right there is his. And the his we're talking about is Adam, you see? And he called him and he named him Saith, meaning to be appointed. So keep that in mind, even though it's like a transference, like a copy. So every human being literally is just another copy of Adam. That's what it's saying. They're a resemblance, because that's what a kid motho means, okay? It means a resemblance. It means a likeness, a comparison, right? And according to his Zalmo, meaning we took upon all the attributes of our father. So everything that he was transferred onto us. What's interesting too about this idea of all these men that were under the line of Saith, of that family of Saith, they were different than Cain's line, because in Saith's line, and this is important for us to understand, in Saith's line, these people's names were very glorifying to the Creator. Halal means to praise. Okay, that's what that means. And El, that's what his name means, to praise El. Yored means that he was going to descend. Okay, and then Konok means the one who is dedicated. Okay, that's what his name means. And Methushalach means the man who sins. Okay, that's what the shalach means, to send away. Okay, depending on what tense is being used in. So what we're seeing is that these individuals under the family of Saith, they had a relationship with the Creator. They had a relationship with him. It wasn't like they didn't know him, okay? Because we see Konok, he had walked with Elohim. Right here. He walked with him, okay? He was 36 years old, or excuse me, he was 65 years old when he began to walk with Yah. because he's 65 when he births this child, and then he was born in Kanok walk with Yah 300 years. Okay, so his beginning of walking with Yah was not at year 300. His beginning of walking with Yah was at the age of 65 years old. When did Moshe walk with Yah? How old was he?
I think he was 80, wasn't
Absolutely, he was 80. Does anyone know how old Dawid was? Some of the sages say that Dawid was a young man. He was a young kid. He's at least 12 years old. Okay. There were some kings of Israel, one called Asa, he was 8 years old. So what we see is this range. Okay. There's a range of when people begin to walk with the Creator. I bring this point out simply because I don't want you to get discouraged when you started to walk with the Most High. Some of us get discouraged. I was when I found out the truth about who the Creator is. I was like, man, I'm 42 years old. You know, some of us are, in our 60s, and some of us are found out in their 70s. You know, some people are walking with Yah in a young age. The point is that being with Yah is a journey. Being with Him and walking with Him it's a life's work. You see, it's not the fact that Yah didn't know Moshe at 80. He knew him before then. He's already provided a way for him. But the fact is Yah decides when a person's going to come to understand Him and to walk with Him. Okay. And this one here where he walked with Him, it was a Hith Pael. And Hith Pael is a action that is what you would call reflexive. There's two ways that you can do an action. Either you're going to do the action, or you can or you could be passive. You can be active or you can be passive. Active means that you're the one who's doing the action. Passive means that action is happening to you. A reflexive means that it's both active and passive, that you are the one causing yourself to do the action. Okay? So what we can learn from this is this. Often when you see that a person walk with Elohim, understand that they're the ones who made the decision. You and I have to make a choice whether or not you and I are going to walk with Him. See? And that's something that came from within that individual. And when did Yah know that he was going to walk? He knew he's going to be 65 years old. He had his first kid, and then all of a sudden now me and him are going to walk together. Oh, Moshe is going to be put out in 80 years old. That's when I'm going to come to him and talk to him. And then he's going to walk with me. You see, and Aharon was older than Moshe. Aharon was like several years older than his brother. So he started earlier, right? Abraham was I think he was like in his 80s he was in his 70s. I think he was like 75 years old when when Yah called him. Okay. And of course, this is all relative to how much time they were on the earth. But the point is, it doesn't matter how much time, whether it's 1,000 years or whether it's 100 years, you still have to make that decision. You have to decide if you're going to walk with the Creator. And then once you walk with Him, if you notice, he said he walked with Him for 300 years, and then he ends his life, all of his years were 365 years. So what can you and I learn from this? We know that 300 plus 65 is 365. So we understand when he got called, and then the rest of the time was his service. That was his service. So from the moment that he got called, he dedicated the rest of his life, even to the point where he got his life taken up and he didn't die. Yah took him. Does Yah have the power to take a person from the earth? Yes, He does. You and I might not understand it. We might call it science fiction, but within our text, we find in our history, in our historical account right here, that He's done this. And then we also see this in what book and what prophet? In the book of Kings. And who's the prophet? Who's the Navi?
Elijah?
There you go. His name is Eli. Yah, who? Okay. Eli means my Elohim, my El is Yahweh. Okay. That's what his name means. My El is Yahweh, meaning my power is Elohim. Okay. That's what Eliyahu's name means. And that's why when he came, he said that he's going to go tell the children of Israel who Yah is. And he did a contest to prove that my Elohim is Yahweh, not the prophets of Baal, you see? So when we look at these names, and of course, again, Kanok means to be dedicated. You said, I thought we were talking about Noach. I am. I'm telling you about his family so you can understand what is in your blood. Okay, what's in you, what's going down through time. Okay, dedicated to, and with dedication, it takes training and it takes commitment. This is what dedication is. It means to be constantly pursuing a goal or desired outcome. This is what's in your bloodline. Because as you notice when you read about Noach, him and his 3 sons are the only ones outside of their wives that continue the human race. And out of that family, this is the bloodline of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, because they come from his son called Shem. And Shem means what?
Name?
Name. There you go. Shem is name. Okay. That's what name is. And what's your name? What does name mean from a Hebraic perspective?
Character.
It's your character. It's your your character is your conduct. And your conduct is your characteristics and how you behave and how you do things. It's your behaviors. So the Creator's trying to show us, he doesn't give us names just for the sake of saying we're here. These are Hebrew names. It's dedication, training, commitment, right? And they're committed to what? They're committing to causing themselves to walk with Elohim. They knew Yahweh. Because listen, they use his name right here. It says to whom he called Noach, this is the one who will comfort us in our labor, in our hard work that we do with our hands from the ground that Yahweh cursed. Well, did he leave the earth? Did he find any comfort in the labor? No. Yah did not break that curse of the land until he destroyed everything first. So this is what we're talking about, okay? Now that we mentioned Shem's name, this is our order: firstborn, secondborn, thirdborn. You know what his name, Shem, means name, which is character, which in the Hebrew of its agricultural meaning means breath, okay? So the breath means the breath of you. This is why when you say something or you say a name, it's the breath of that person, is how the breath of them is how they live. You got to live according to your character. Your name is very important. Your name can hold what you say in Noach's name holds comfort. This is the reason why Yah chose him. Okay. I'm going to give you a spoiler alert. And you'll probably hear me say it again. Yah chose Noach, and this child was named this because this man wanted comfort. He said, this one will bring us comfort in our labor. He's speaking on behalf of humanity and all the hard work that we do with our hands. Their bones were hurting people because that's what Yah said it was going to happen. Okay. But not only does his name means comfort, okay, but there's a flip side too, where he says, Yah says that he wants to comfort, he wants to console himself. This is console someone. Yah chose Noach because Noach was going to be someone to bring comfort to Yah and to console him. Somebody tell me why. Why did Yah need to be consoled?
Probably because he was almost regretted, for lack of a better term, creating the first people
Oh
because
no,
they
you
were
don't. Yeah, I'm
disappointed.
sorry for interrupting. You don't have to apologize for that because what you said is identical, on spot on what he said. He regretted creating human beings. It broke his heart. Yah has a mind. He doesn't have a heart that's beating, but he has a mind. He has thought. Listen, in time, men began to multiply on earth and the daughters were born to them. And it talks about how these daughters were attractive and, people started taking as many wives as they wanted to. Just give me a little backdrop on it. He said, listen, my spirit will not live with human beings forever. This is not an accurate translation. To live, that's not true. This is not true. This is not true. He doesn't say my spirit will not live. He said my spirit won't judge human beings forever. Meaning the part of me that's in them won't cause them to kind of think, right? It won't overrule this. You see? So the battle is Yah's spirit is in conflict. My spirit will not judge. That's called din. Human beings forever. Why? Because they too are flesh. I can't, they're not listening to me. I'm not able to remember what din means. It doesn't mean I'm going to put you in the grave. It literally means I'm going to make a decision about a quarrel or an argument or contention. And because this happened, Yah says, I got to do something out of pity and compassion on behalf of humankind. Yah's decision was this: because they won't listen to me and I can't solve their problems for them. Before I answer or go to my next point, as a result of them not listening to him, because they're flesh too, what were they like? What were the people like?
Animals.
They were like animals. He says right here, Yahweh saw that the people on earth were very wicked. Why? Because his spirit will not judge them. So they became very wicked. They were very wicked. And all of their imagining, all their thoughts in their minds were always evil only. So I got to cut down their lifespan. I don't want them to live like this for hundreds of years. I can't sit back and watch my creation live this way. So I have to take action because they're not listening to the din. So we're going to move from din, from handling quarrels. Remember, I told you, if you guys remember, how many types of judgments are there?
3.
There's 3 of them. The first one is called din, which we're discussing right now about arguments and contention. And din means to rule. My spirit won't rule them. Okay. And the next one is called palal. Palal means to make intercession on behalf of someone for me to help them, or they're trying to intercede for someone. The next one is called the shafat, meaning that I got to get them with the judgment for wrongdoings. So because I won't be able to do this with them no more, and because there is no one doing this, we're going to move down to shafat now. I'm going to pull this one off now because I want to show them mercy by cutting their years down so they don't have to live for 800, 969, 5, 700, all these different years that they were living, 605, 905, 935 years. That's a long time to be living in a state with a whole bunch of evil. It's a long time. So the people on the earth were very wicked. And guess what? They only wanted to do evil. They only wanted to bring misery. And as long as they were living in misery, there was no joy whatsoever for nobody. Okay. As you said, Akoti, you brought it out. You said that he regretted. He regretted that he made humankind. You write about that. And it grieved his heart, his mind. This is the reason why he wanted to be comforted. So when you look at Noah's name, Noah, it means to console. It means to comfort. Okay. And it also has to do with the idea to relieve from someone grieving. My poor wife right now is grieving over her mother. But she has to go through the process, and I have to find a way to bring comfort to her. You see? Comfort is part of the process. Grieving is a process. And part of that process of grieving is comfort. And we'll talk more about that if the Creator's willing later. Yah said, I will wipe out, the same word that he uses for wiping out the children of Israel and saying, I'm going to wipe out humankind whom I've created. So now you and I are getting a quick preview that when he said, I'm going to wipe Israel out, I'm going to wipe them off the face of the earth, just move out the way. That's not the first time. This is literally the first time when the Creator said, I'm going to wipe somebody out. Why is he writing this? Why is he telling us this? Because I want you to know that I will wipe everyone off the face of the earth. If your mindset is not willing, everything you're talking about is doing what you want to do, and you're not interested in the den, you're not interested in me handling situations and quarrels and arguments for you, which I do through my instructions, you don't have any other choice but to get this. That's what it's going to happen. I'm at my end. You see here in verse number 7, I will wipe out humankind, whom I created from the whole earth. And not only human beings, but animals too, and creeping things. What did they do? And the birds, what did they do? For I regret that I've ever made them. Go ahead, Akoti. Share.
Did Yah know that we, his people, the Israelite, were going to be, I imagine he did know, but when he created, mankind, he knew already, or Yah knew already, that we were going to be this rebellious, devious, disobedient group of people.
Yes.
Okay.
He knows what we're called, and it's in Hebrew called afar. And afar means that he knows that you and I are nothing but dust. Outside of the part of us that's supposed to be like him and supposed to be in his likeness and supposed to be part of his character and to carry out all of his attributes of being righteous and being just and being fair and being equitable. Outside of that, you and I are nothing but dust. You ain't nothing but material that's made from the earth.
So why did he create us? Or why did Yah, I hate to say he, but why did Yah
don't be afraid of saying that.
Okay. Why were we created if he knew that we were going to be this way?
That's a question that even King David had asked. He says, what is man that you shall be mindful of him? Why do you even consider us?
Yeah.
It's been the question.
Okay.
And I'll be honest with you, they didn't answer that question.
Okay.
And I can't answer it.
Okay.
I won't, because if King David said, it's in chapter 144 of Psalms, and it's also in chapter number 8, where David had asked that question. But asking questions means that you're wise. That's something he
Okay.
does want you to ponder. Why would you even take the time?
Yeah.
We can make all kind of statements like, I can easily say, well, he created us. And I could go to the prophets where he said he created Yisrael for his glory. I could answer
Right.
that with that. And he said, I
Right.
created you for my glory. And he says in Isaiah 43, I formed you for myself, for to be a people to me.
Yeah.
Okay. But out of humanity, he chose us. And then you and I are getting an understanding about even the part of us that's still human. Okay.
Mhm, mhm.
Is part of what you're seeing here. Yah's giving us the heads up on like, this is what I need you to be worried about because this is what I'm going to change. You understand? Your job
Yes.
is to go ahead and be a light to the nations when I bring you back. But I also want to let you know that the reason why the earth is in the way that it is right now is because of you. You understand? Not here. This is just a forecast of humankind. Out of humankind, Yah decides to choose, and he does have a plan. The plan is to use Yisrael to change this. Okay? That's the plan. And I'll show that to you in Isaiah chapter number 26 right quick. But
Thank you.
Yes, but let me finish this part right here. He says that I'm wiping everybody out. That's how I feel. That's what's going to happen. And no one can stop his hand. No one can stop his hand. No one. But then it says, but Noach, Matzah, he found grace in the sight of Yahweh. That's what he found. He found grace. And the reason why he found grace is because the first word or line in our Torah portion, because this right here is the other Torah portion. This one right here, verse number 9 is where we start. It says, this is the history of Noach in his generation. Noach was a man righteous and wholehearted, and Noach walked with Elohim. Again, he caused himself. That's something that he did. Now, what's interesting is that they say this is the history of Noach. But he don't give us really any history of Noach. It just tells you this word history is called Yalad. Okay. And Yalad means to birth. Okay. That's what it means, to bring forth. Every other name that you read in chapter 4 and 5 tells you about all the sons that these people had, and they had sons and daughters. And the word that they use is Yalad. They brought forth Yaled, or, Yalada, which is the female, right? So he's saying, they use the word Yalad here, and I asked myself, I said, okay, if it's really a history, then why are they using the word Yalad? Yalad means to bring forth. What it's trying to tell us is this: the very thing that Yah had birthed in Noach was expressed in his generation, in his time, in his cycle. That's important for us to understand. Is that when you are born, listen, when Yah gives you a Yalad and you are born, you're supposed to birth something. And your birth is not just you coming out of your mother and then somebody throwing you on the breast, and then you have a life and you get your milk, and then you get older and you start eating and all that kind of stuff. Then you wear your diapers and you move from there and you go potty train and all that. Then you grow up and you become a little kid and toddler and run around. Then, you start speaking, and then you go to elementary school and grow, and then go to high school and so forth, then you go to college and get married and all. That's not what they're talking about here. That's not the birthing that Yah's talking about. What it's saying is, just like the Enoch or Chanok said that his life was at 365 years, but at 65, he began to walk with Yah. It's telling us that everybody that wants to be with the Creator has to make the decision for themselves, and they're going to have to birth something. This man birthed righteousness. This man was wholehearted with Yahweh. And he did it in the cycle that he is in. That's what the generation means, a cycle. Because you only know that you have so much time in your cycle. So it doesn't matter when you get it. If you're on your cycle right now, going around, you have to do what you got to do in the time that you have. You might be in the red. You may be right here. And your end might be right here. You don't know. So as long as you go on around, you know, like musical chairs and the music's playing, then when the music stops, you stop and you try to get in the chair. And sometimes you might be having, you can continue. That's where they got that game from. So, you know, you don't know when your cycle is going to go. But what we do know is that at 500 years, this man was called to do something for Yah. And what qualified him was his willingness to walk with Yah. He's righteous. His righteousness was not based upon his own, meaning that he attained his own righteousness. No, it tells us where did he got the righteousness from. That little dot right there, that semicolon right there, tells you why he was wholehearted and why he was righteous, because he walked with Yah. He made a decision to walk with him. While everybody else was doing their thing, he decided, I'm going to do something different. And that's what you and I are at right now. Right now, your family is the people that you read in chapter 4 and 5 until you get to this point in chapter number 6. You very well could be like Noah. If you made your mind up to walk with Yah, trust me, you're going to be a righteous person. But he had to be sincere and he had to be wholehearted. That's the question. Whether or not you and I are going to be sincere about our walk, whether or not you and I are going to be 100% dedicated to the walk, whether or not you and I are willing to be trained, whether or not we're willing to be tamim, because even this word right here, wholehearted, this right here is called tamim. Tamim means to be literally tamed. You're willing to let Yah tame you to get you ready for service. So you could do something, a work for Yah. You and I have not been told this. We had a whole bunch of people, our kidnappers told us, all you need to do is believe and try to be good. And if you're not, don't worry. Christ paid for it. He paid it all. Don't worry about it because God loves you. You don't have nothing to worry about. That wholeheartedness right there was what they would call being perfect. I'm perfect because I want to be tamed. I want Yah to put that staff on me and make me ready for the work, for the service. You and I was not told that you and I were going to have to do some work because you thought that the apostles did all the work for you. You thought that they're the ones who spread the gospel and all you need to do is attend church on Sunday and them to tell you what a wonderful job that you're trying to do, but don't worry about it because Christ did it all for you. And the work that needed to happen, you don't need to do anything. It's already done. You don't need any training, just believe. And you and I fell for that. But everybody moving forward, understand this, that you and I are supposed to be in service to Yah. And the work that you and I are supposed to do is a life of service, continual service. Not when you feel like turning it on and not when you feel like turning it off because it's convenient at that moment. This is what we have been called to do as a people.
Hallelujah.
My service started at 42 years old. Your might start at 60. Someone might be 75. I don't care if you get 24 hours of service. You serve the mighty Elohim. And give him the credit that's due to him. And you do that by walking with him and by trusting in him. I'm going to answer your question second, Okoti.
Hallelujah, bro.
Here it is. In the book of Isaiah, Yashayahu, salvation, dealing with the idea of salvation, we are told something in chapter number 26. And don't forget it. It's special. I'm going to read just a little bit of it. Let's read, the dead will not live again. The ghost will not rise again. For you punished and destroyed them and wiped out all memory of them. You enlarged the nation, Yahweh. You enlarged the nation, and thus you glorified yourself, and you extended all the frontiers of the country, Yahweh. When they were troubled, they sought you. When you chastened them, they poured out a silent prayer. Now, here's this. As a pregnant woman about to give birth cries out, remember, giving birth, and she reaves and in her labor pains. So we have been at your presence, Yahweh. We have been pregnant and been in pain, like a pregnant woman. But we, as it were, have given birth to wind. We have given birth to wind. I told you that Noach, that is said that it was his, in his, the history of him, it said Yalad. That word right there is Yalad, to bring forth. We brought forth wind, meaning nothing. We have not brought salvation to the land, and those inhabiting the world have not come to life. Salvation is supposed to be brought by the we here, and that's Israel. But because we haven't birthed anything, because the Yalad that we had didn't have any wholeheartedness and it didn't have any righteousness. And therefore, we have not brought salvation. So when you look at the first line that we had in our Torah portion that said that this man was righteous and he was wholehearted because he walked with Elohim, because he chose to make a decision to walk with him, he was saved because he brought forth this mindset. He birthed something that caused him to be saved. And what he birthed in him started in his mind. It's not being pregnant like a woman. He's using it as an example to tell you that you go through a process. You know, it takes something to get pregnant. And once you find out you're pregnant, you nourish it and you add to it and you're excited about it. But the whole time that Israel's been pregnant and been in pain, they haven't brought forth nothing. At the end of their birth, there was nothing. You mean to tell me I thought a baby was coming out, all that came out was wind? When salvation's supposed to come out of us as a people, the only thing that came out of us is wind, a breeze? What was all the pain for? What was all the eating for? What was all the being careful? What was all the maternity outfits for? If you and I are not going to bring forth what we need to bring forth. Well, look at 19. Earlier, it said that the dead don't live. But look at here. Your dead will live. My corpse will rise. Awake and sing, you who dwell in the dust. For your dew is like the morning dew, and the earth will bring the ghost to life. That is all metaphoric language. And we can find this in Ezekiel chapter number 37, where Yahweh tells the nation of Israel that you guys are like dead people to me, but I'm going to raise you up and I'm going to bring you life. Then he says, come, my people, enter your rooms, shut the doors behind you and hide yourselves for a little while until the wrath and indignation is past. For see with your very eyes that Yahweh emerges from his place to punish those on the earth for their sin. Then the earth will reveal the blood shed on it and no longer conceal its slain. I thought that was pretty fitting when we think about what Yah is going to do in chapter number 6, 7, and 8 of the book of Bereshith. When he's going to tell us what he had to do. He rose up and he decided, I'm going to punish the earth for its sin. So when Yah did that the first time, and he tells us he's going to emerge again from his place, and I'm coming to punish. So let's ask the question, since we are former Christians. They say that Christ died on the cross and that he came to die for people's sin, for the world and for the earth and for their sins. And it's supposed to have brought salvation to those who are inhabiting the world, like you see right here. This is where they get the idea of salvation for the world and for people to come to life. Okay? So when Christ died on the cross, allegedly, okay, did anybody ever see Yahweh emerge from his place? Did he punish everybody on the earth for their sin, and even the people that killed Christ?
No.
Was the earth, did any of the earth and the blood that was in it that was shed, was that ever revealed? Was any of the other sins of the slain, of people that have been killed, has that ever been revealed?
No.
No. Did everybody on the earth get saved?
Nope.
No. How about the land? Did the land receive salvation when Christ died?
No.
No, they were still being oppressed by the Romans, still got destroyed. The reason why people want to hang on to that is simply because they want to give birth to win. I'm going to say to you tonight, don't let your labor and all the work that you've done be in vain. Don't do that. Let the Torah portion this week speak to your heart and let it comfort you. There's comforting words in there, even though you're going to hear what Yah is going to do. When you read it and you understand it, Yah is having mercy by allowing humanity even to continue. But the only one that was qualified was one out of all humanity, just one. Yah just needs one. That's all he needs. He doesn't need 10. He just needs one. And you read your Torah portion, he didn't say, your sons are righteous. They weren't. No, they weren't. He didn't say, because you and your wife had such a great marriage. No, he didn't. It's simply because the man was willing to walk with the Creator. He made up his mind. And when you and I can learn from that, you got any regrets? Because you should have regrets. But understand that Yah can comfort us. In the way that we can console him and the way we can comfort him, Noach is not the only person that can bring comfort to Yah. You and I can too, if you and I decide to walk with him. You and I can pacify his anger. We're going to talk more about that this week and later on. Just think about that this week. That you literally can live a way that would bring comfort to Yah and console him. He's looking for just somebody. Just somebody, anybody. He's even said it and plenty of times I looked to see, is there anybody? Is there anybody? If I find anybody in the city that would say, let's do what's right, I'll save the whole entire city. I won't destroy them. You see, we have too many examples, people. We have too many examples. So during the rest of this week, I want you to focus on asking yourself, am I being sincere? Am I literally being sincere with the Creator? Meaning like genuine. I'm not holding anything back and I'm not making excuses. I'm not putting nobody or nothing in front of him. Am I doing that? honestly. Am I dedicated? Because that's the line that I come from. And I know I know it seems like, that we'll be pushing, Akika be pushing people. He's always telling us what we need to do. And he sounds like he's acting like he's a saint. No, I'm telling you right now, I'm not. What I'm telling you is that the creator of the heavens and the earth is not playing with us. He's not playing with anybody. And if you want to survive, because that's coming, if you want to survive what's coming, then, you're going to have to get on the right track. There was a question asked, no flesh and blood can enter heaven. Kanok didn't die. Where is he? And is he still alive? Okay. So the first part of the question is no flesh and blood can enter heaven. Now, where do we get that idea? Where did that come from?
I think it's in the Bible somewhere, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's in the New Testament.
Oh, New Testament.
Yeah. So that's a New Testament thought where it says flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of God.
Yeah, that's right.
That was something I struggled with too, right? I'm like, okay, well, where is he? Right.
Mhm.
So he translates this man. It doesn't tell us how, we don't know if he gave up his mortal body. We don't know. We find that what's his name? Eliyahu was translated. He went and we got picked up in a fiery chariot and went into the heavens. That's a wonder. That's something you and I don't have nothing. We don't know. Well, let's reverse engineering for the sake of argument. How many times have you heard that a man would come and visit humanity in the form of a body? How many times did Malachim show up and then after they're in a human flesh, right? And then they jump in the fire and then they go up into the flame. How many times have we heard that? We heard that a lot. Weren't there men who were Malachim who went into Sodom and Gomorrah? You see?
Yeah.
So are they able to take on some form of humanity, some form of flesh?
Yes.
Mhm. So our ideas behind it, we don't fully understand it. And that's fine. Yah said, I don't need you to understand everything. You're never going to get it until I give it to you, all of it. That's one of my secrets. Because remember, every time the Malachim, all the examples, and I can refer you to the book of Judges, and I can also refer you to Yaakov with his wrestling match. Do you remember every time that he got into it, or they got in and asked him a question, got in a conversation with a Malak, the first thing they would ask the Malak is what? What's the first thing they ask him? What's your name? And what is the Malak? What did all of them say?
I don't think they ever gave a name, did they?
I don't have to give you a name. Listen what they said. My name is Secret. I'm a secret. But I tell you what your name would be. You name the child this, or you do this. They would never tell them a name, would they?
No.
Why? Because one of them said it's secret. That's deep, ain't it? Like, I'm telling you straight up that I'm a secret. You can't know my name. Not at this moment. So we don't understand a lot of things, but Yah will give it to us if he decides. He said the secret things belong to Yahweh. But those
Right.
things that have been revealed belong to us and our children. Why? Forever, so that you and I can keep the Torah. Yes, Koti, Cheryl.
So how does Gabriel and Michael, those angels, how did they get that name?
Well, I got no, but here's the thing. This is what I want to share with you. Is Gabriel ever mentioned in the Tanakh or the Torah, what they call the Old Testament?
No.
No,
I don't know.
no, he's not.
Okay.
No.
So that's a New Testament thing.
That's the New Testament. Now you would say,
Okay.
what about the book of Daniel? Surely that could be Michael, right?
Mhm.
Okay. Here's the question about that. When was that written? That
New
book was not written at the time right? It was written way, way after, right? And so he gives a name and he says, well, Michael will show up in chapter number 12. You know, chapter number 10, he's mentioned, chapter number 12. No Malachim has ever had his name mentioned. None. So that's I question that, because Daniel's not a prophet, by the way. He's a dreamer. He's not a prophet. In his dreams, he never gave Israel any instructions as a writing. But I know that, you know, how the Greeks like to tamper with things. So I don't put too much confidence, gives you some historical stuff, and that's all it is. But in terms of, you know, you and I being resurrected from the dead through Daniel chapter number 12, the Christians use that to justify their resurrection of Christ and all that kind of stuff. And Michael, the brother, and Michael, the angel, and, you know, Revelations and the devil, and fought with Michael and Book of Jude and all this kind of stuff. So from our perspective, even the Creator himself, remember what he told the children of Israel in chapter number 23? Those of you who want to know, stay on. Let me show you. Let me show you what he said. So if we want to find out, look what he said. Is in Exodus chapter number 23. And this is about, I think it's in 23. Is it 23? I think it's in 23. And if I'm not mistaken, let's see. Oh, here it is. Yeah. Hear what he says. Yah says this to Moshe in chapter number 23 of Exodus, chapter 23, verse 20. I am sending in Malach, okay, ahead of you. Matter of fact, and he says, ahead of you to guard you on the way and bring you to the place I've prepared. You pay attention to him. Actually, I think it says my Malach in Hebrew, okay? I'm sending him ahead of you to guard you on the way to bring you into the place that I prepared. Pay attention to him. Listen to what he says and do not rebel against him, because he will not forgive any wrongdoing of yours, since my name resides in him. But if you listen to what he says and you do everything I tell you, see, because he's using the Malach to tell them, right? Then I will be an enemy to your enemies and a foe to your foes. And when my Malach goes ahead of you and he brings you to the Imri, the Kiti, the Perizi, the Ka'anani, and the Kiwi and the Yavusi, I will make an end of them. Okay. And then he goes on to say all these different sorts of things. So I bring that out to say that even the Creator himself, at any time, he could have used the name, but he didn't. He just said he's my Malach. And then he says, if he does everything that I tell you to do, meaning I want to use him as a communication device to tell you what to do. That Malach ended up hanging out with Yehoshua and showing up in Joshua chapter number, I think, 1 or 2. Yes, Sakoti.
Just as an addendum, and forgetting the New Testament scripture about flesh and blood being able to go to heaven, the Hebrew scriptures do say that when man dies, everybody goes to Sheol, which is the place of the dead, whether they're righteous or wicked, they all go to Sheol. And that right there tells me nobody goes to heaven. And
right.
To quote you from some time ago, we've never been invited to heaven, you know?
No.
And so nobody goes.
No, nobody go. But if you look at the key to that is die. They have to die. The dead don't go. Okay. So you look at Kanok, he didn't die. You look at Eliyahu, he didn't die. Those two didn't die for whatever reason. They didn't die.
So we don't really know where they are.
We don't know where they are.
Okay.
Hey, do you remember the time where he took him? He said, remember the prophet was chasing Elisha and said, hey, we don't know where you could be. Elisha was chasing Elijah. And he was like, I got to get to you because you could be here 1 minute and everyone been looking. Remember they went looking for him?
Yeah.
That's what it is. Because they thought that he was taken, because that was what things happened. They were taken to different places, you see? Mm-hmm. So that's something supernatural that you and I don't have access to, but our people at that time, they knew that he could be in the mountains. So they searched for him for quite a bit of time.
Yeah, they did.
because that was a common practice.
Mhm.
That
Is
you
there-
be here 1 minute and then go on the next. And he's in also too, the prophets talk about Elisha was like telling the prophets or telling the king what was going to happen because I think Aram was coming to attack him, and every time he went to go attack them, Elisha knew exactly what they were going to do because Yah had given him the ability to hear the conversation from that king that wasn't even nowhere to be found. He allowed him to hear his words behind a closed door, and he's in a whole nother part of the city or a whole nother land. So those things right there,
May I ask a question?
absolutely.
Moshe was told to go into the mountain and die, and they mourned him for 30 days. Did they ever reveal where his gravesite was?
No.
No.
So we don't, my point being is that there's a lot of stuff that we don't know. The creator created blood and bones and all that deal.
Yeah.
So if he decided to like allow it to just walk off into the sky or wherever it went, it's up to him.
Yeah.
Where these people are. I have one more question. When in Genesis it talks about in image, in the image of, we know from our studies that the Most High doesn't have an image.
Mhm.
So we really weren't talking about, some guy with, a beard and that looks like a human being.
Mhm.
So I guess my question is then what image are we talking about? In whose image? Like, are we just talking about the spirit, the breath?
Yes.
Okay. Then
Yeah.
yeah.
That's it, because the answer to that is what we read earlier tonight, where he talked about, he says, my spirit won't always, judge him, won't always, because the spirit that we have is from him, right?
Mhm.
And even in the word that he talked to Maruki, he says to Neshama, my spirit will not always, some say strive, some say live, but it's really to judge. So that which is in us is supposed to help us resolve that which, to protect us from doing the things that we would naturally want to do, to have some type of resolution within oneself. That's why he talks about Cain. He says, hey, I reread that today, and it said the Yah, when Cain brought his offering, the Most High didn't even look at it. It's not that he just refused it. He didn't even gaze at it. He didn't even look at it. And that made Cain very upset. And he said, hey, if you would do the right thing, wouldn't things go well with you? When you be, why is your head down? Why are you angry? So it wasn't really that he just started off with anger. It's because he got rejected from the work and the service that he did to the Creator. And he wanted the Creator to accept what he gave him. And he was like, no. But to answer another question is like, when the Creator told, and I pulled it up right here. He told Joshua, yeah, there it is. After the death of Moshe, the servant of Yahweh, Yahweh said to Yehoshua, the son of Nun, Moshe's assistant, Moshe, my servant, is dead. He's dead. So now get up, cross over the Jordan, or this Jordan, and you and the people to the land I'm giving to them, to the people of Israel. And then he tells them, hey, do this, this, and this, and that. And of course, that just verifies that the Creator did take his life, that his life has ended. They don't know where his body is, but he did take, as he said, he's dead. But what does that literally mean? It means that he doesn't exist on the earth. It doesn't mean that his soul is gone. It means that he's just not here. You're silent here in this realm. Okay. But those are some great questions. So everyone, praise be to the living Elohim. Lila told